Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Sharon Hughes. She is an author, speaker, and coach. She's an award winning author of The Girl in the Garage, Three Steps to Letting Go of the Past. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Well, thank you so much, AJ, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are talking about. We are talking about creating confidence. So, my first question itself is, Sharon, is to understand. You talk about creating confidence, about this topic called confidence itself quite a lot. You are the founder of Confidence Academy. You are the host of Call to Confidence podcast, and a confidence and self worth expert. And I want to understand, about why do you lay so much of emphasis on confidence?
Hmm. Well, that's such a great intro. So, confidence and self worth are definitely not the same thing, but they're kissing cousins. And so, through the years, I've done a lot of work in this space and took some things that I learned into corporate training and it was such a great arena to test my theories. And what I found is confidence is a skill set. That's it, you guys. Anybody listening here, you can learn to be confident. Self worth is a whole nother issue, and I'll explain the difference between those two. So, confidence, like I said, it's a skill set. So, for listeners right now, think of all the things that you know how to do and that you know how to do really well. You're not worried about it at all. I mean, take something as simple as driving your car. You know how to drive. You're not worried about the navigation and how to use the car. And it could be something even as simple as cooking. You know how to bake a cake. You know how to, make a casserole, whatever it is. Those are just easy, follow the directions, and you know how to do it, and you feel good, you're confident. So that's very different than self-worth. Self-worth says, this is about how I feel about myself. Am I good enough? What will people think about me? Do I deserve this? And the stories that we have around whether we're good enough and we deserve things affects our confidence because we don't give ourselves permission to try, to learn something new, to be able to fail without quitting. So that's where the lines get blurred. So let me ask you, what is it that you want to learn? I talk to people all the time. They want to learn something like playing the piano. Okay, well, if you want to learn to play the piano, you're probably going to hire a music teacher, or maybe you're going to take an online workshop and you're going to learn, where to put your hands on the keys. You're learning the skill of playing the piano. And as you learn, you become more confident in that skill set. So anybody that's never played the piano would sit down and go, oh, I'm not really confident at this. Well, yeah, you're not confident in it because you don't know how to do it. But once you know how to do something, you have tremendous confidence in that arena. Now, a lot of people also mix confidence with, being a little afraid that they can't do something well, say like giving a presentation. Everybody gets nervous when they have to give a big presentation and stand in front of a group and teach them. That's normal. That's not a lack of confidence. Because a lot of people that speak and teach daily, just like yourself, you're putting your podcast out, you're mentoring people, you're confident that you could do that. But sometimes before you hit that live button, you might get a little nervous. How's this going to go today?
Every time
Right?
I must tell you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the difference. And I found a lot of people really struggle with self-worth and do I deserve good things? So they don't build their skill set. It completely stops them. If they would build their skill set, they would feel more confident. but they still have to work on why they think they don't deserve good things.
Right, right. So that, in a nutshell, confidence is basically a skill set that can be learned.
Yes.
Then what is it that people think about confidence? Do they general perception? Because you talk to a lot of people, I
Mhm.
have my own understanding, which I fully agree with you. You know that what is it generally feel think about confidence? It is something inherent. Is it something God gifted? Why is that misconception? If that is what it is, if I'm true, correct?
Well, yeah, and that's a perfect question. I think people just don't understand. And in our culture, so I'm in the United States, you're on the other side of the world in India, maybe your culture does this too. We just say, "Oh, I would go and do that if I had the confidence." They don't realize that they can get the confidence and that it's not elusive out there and only available to select people. Because a lot of people I know, super successful, they still have insecurities. They still battle with their own fears. But that's different than being confident and knowing you can go into the boardroom and close $1 million deal. So that kind of person, they can close the $1 million deal, but they can still feel like they don't deserve good things because they've had, issues in their life, maybe parents that abuse them, an athletic coach told the guy, "You're no good, you're terrible at football." People internalize what other people say to them, and it takes root in your life. And then it will tell you that you're not good enough to do what you want to do, which is a total lie.
Right, right, Sharon. So, if it's a
Mhm.
skill set, there must be a way to learn it. Is there a
Yep.
step by step to it? Help us with that, so that a lot of people need that. Even I need it, uh, so that uh, a lot of people can learn from that.
Oh, AJ, I think you're doing just fine. I think you're doing a great job. Look at you, an international audience. You are
Thank you.
projecting your show globally. That is huge. So I don't know what area you need confidence in, but if anybody wants to throw out a suggestion, we could break something down.
Right,
Do you
right.
have a certain topic?
I would say generally people know about things,
Yeah.
but why do they have this fear that that if I open my mouth, people will have questions which will I will not be able to answer, or they will laugh at me. And when you
Mhm.
start thinking at that side, you forget about all the good things. It is like,
Mhm.
many times we start thinking about all the things that we don't know and forget about all the things that we know. If in
Yeah.
podcasting, for my example, I've done more than 700 live shows. If I,
Wow.
for a moment, I start thinking, Sharon, what are the things I don't have, I will not be able to do even one. You learn along the way. You
Yes.
start putting things along the. You learn on the job. There are still so many things I don't have, and but one thing I
Mhm.
only have is that I can at least try and ask questions which are relevant to the people
Mhm.
down there. And
Mhm.
whether all these problems they will exist and they will go away in time, but these questions will at least help them. The answers will, maybe my questions will not be perfect, but the answers from the masters will be great to help solve some problems
Mhm.
of the people who are seeking those answers. So that is the backdrop in which, if you can tell to the audience that look at the things you have, look at the, don't over criticize yourself, prepare for the questions, but don't over criticize yourself and lose
Mhm.
something called confidence, which is very much part of you.
Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, congratulations on 700 shows. You
Thank
are elite. That is so excellent. You should be very proud of yourself and you should probably go celebrate. So, the first day that you set up your podcast gear, you probably were like, "Oh, I'm going to turn everything on. Let's make sure the audio works." Even though we always check our audio 3 times, we still get a little bit nervous. And that's okay. But you have, like you said, you learn along the way. So for the other point that you made is a lot of people, they know a little bit about something, They're afraid to speak up, though, because somebody will question them or maybe laugh at them. You know what I say to the people that will question us and laugh at us? So what? Because you and I and your listeners, they're all sitting there with something in their heart and their mind, their soul that they want to share, something that they love, something that they care about. You can become the expert of that. Now, you're going to have a different way of looking at that than somebody else that's an expert in that arena, and that's okay. It's okay to have different opinions. But I say, you know what? Speak up and let yourself learn as you go. Do the work to lay your groundwork of what you need to know so that you're really proficient and well-rounded in knowledge about that particular thing. And then when somebody asks you a question that you don't know, you just say, you know what, that's a really good question. I hadn't thought about that. Let me think about it and I'll let you know. That's it. You're off the hook, and you can go and you can think about it. You can do some research, and that's going to help you grow, and that's going to help you develop. Because if you're wanting to speak to more people, mentoring, maybe you're going to be in live courses where people, paid tickets to come and hear you speak, give workshops. You need to have those questions like that people are going to ask. And you can start making a list. What's the most common question somebody asks? We'll just say podcasting. And you, AJ, you could even have your own AJ's Guide to Successful Podcasting. Commonly asked questions. This is what somebody always says. What's the best gear? What do you do when your audio's not working? And like, how do you keep going? And I'll tell you, I did a little bit of show business about 35 years ago, and you just keep going. If something isn't working, you can keep going while a tech person is in the background, or you can say, hey, we're going to take a moment while we fix this. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It happens all the time. It's nothing to be nervous about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are two things. One is to learn about confidence. One is to look confident. How do we do this part also? Because a lot of people believe what they see. A lot of people are not confident, but they look to be confident, and then it sets the game for them. How does one do that?
Yeah, well, believing and feeling confident is different than looking confident. And after working with a lot of very high profile, successful people, I'll tell you, this is just the truth. This is for everybody to know. We're all the same. You people might look at you and I and think, "Oh, they look so confident." Well, there's things that we do in our life that we're not very confident at, or that we might be concerned like, "Oh, I don't know if I have this right." There's nothing wrong with that. There's a very interesting idea about building the brand of who you are. So not the brand of your KAJ Masterclass, not that, but who's the brand of AJ? Who's the brand of Sharon? How we present ourselves. What do we bring to the table with our personalities and our beliefs and our core values? You can brand yourself to be known as, let's just say, the kindest person in the room. Now, would somebody look at the kindest person in the room and think, wow, you're not very confident. Like you just don't really know what you're talking about. Well, a critic might, a hardcore critic, but the majority of people sitting in that room, that's not what they're going to think. So each one of us gets to be the brand of ourselves and decide what we want to be known for. If you want to be known for teaching, I don't know, kids how to play shuffleboard, something silly, you can learn that. It all starts with learning and then implementing what you learn. If you don't implement what you learn and you just keep sitting, on the couch where it's nice and safe, you're not going to feel more confident. Implementation is absolutely key.
Right, right. Sharon, to understand, a lot of times we say, I have lost my confidence in this. What does that mean? How can they correct that? And what are they referring to? Are they referring to something else, or is it this confidence that can, that's a skill that you can relearn or learn, build it again?
Yeah. Yeah, you can relearn the skill. Absolutely. So here in America, a lot of kids ride skateboards. And when I was a kid, I had a skateboard. And one day I go, when we were out as kids in the street riding our skateboards, everybody fell off their skateboard. Bruised up, scraped your knees, your elbows, but we all, we would laugh, we would get back on the skateboard and keep going. And I said, why is it that when we grow up, we're so afraid to be on the proverbial skateboard? We don't want anybody to see us make a mistake or fall. Like, what has happened in the growing up? In the growing up, we started believing lies about ourselves. Because when we're kids, if somebody goes, oh, you can't ride a skateboard, and you see all your neighborhood friends on skateboards, you go, that's crazy. Of course I can. All my friends are doing it, and I want to try. So we have to shift our mind to say, why am I telling myself that I can't do this? What is the real reason? And there's 3 questions that you can ask yourself about that particular thing that you're struggling with. The first question is, what's the best case scenario? So we'll go back to using a podcast. What's the best case scenario? I have never had a podcast and I'm going to start one. Write down a list. It's going to go well. Even down to, I can afford the equipment. I understand how to use the equipment. I do a test with my friends. Everything goes great. My podcast takes off and, everybody hears my voice all over the world, whatever your list is. Okay. Now, the next question you're going to ask yourself is, what's the worst case scenario? Everything goes wrong, right? The equipment fails, or, it's delivered by Amazon and it's broken and I can't get a replacement. Like, who knows? The tech fail, internet goes out, like all the things. Just write down worst case scenario. Okay, you know what the likely scenario is? It's something in the middle. And everybody typically ends up in the likely scenario. So what's likely to happen is most of it's good, some of it might not work, but you figure it out. And that makes everything so much easier. And it's really rare that everything goes wrong, that everything on your list is going to go wrong. So people build that up. It's like hiking up to the top of the cliff and they think they're going to fall off. What's the chance that when you hike to the top of the hill that you're going to fall off? Like, that just doesn't happen. It's not reality. But that's the lies we have in our head.
Right, right. In terms of building confidence or creating confidence, what creates best confidence? By failing, by falling, or by never falling even once? Because a lot of times people think, I'm a perfectionist, I should never fall, fail, or never seem to fall or fail. And that
Yeah.
happens with leadership.
Yeah. Perfection is a lie. Nobody's perfect. And that's just kind of ridiculous for anybody to try to be perfect. It's unattainable, and it really causes people not to try. It causes you to be just frozen where you are in your fear. Nobody can perform perfectly. It's not reality. Like, folks that are listening to the show, you got to try. You have to give yourself permission to try. And if you never fail, you're not going to be able to learn what to do when something goes wrong. What if there's a crisis of some kind and you've never failed at anything? You're going to be curled up in a ball under the blankets. You won't even be able to cope. I mean, you've got to let yourself struggle a little bit and learn how to push through the struggle. I mean, really ask yourself, what is it that I want? And why do I want it? And then ask yourself, is this worth fighting for? It doesn't matter if it's your marriage, the entrepreneurial business, maybe you're an athlete and you want to compete, whatever it is it worth the fight? And if you can't say yes without hesitation, then you need to move on, because you just don't have what it takes to make it work. And you need to move on, because you're just going to sit there and be stuck and struggle with it. But you can learn. You might instead of saying yes or no to that, you might be, well, I think so. Well, you need to get to the root of, why isn't it a hard yes? What do you really want, and what's holding you back? because there's a lot of
Right.
things that hold us back. A lot of childhood wounds and trauma and stuff like that.
Right. In terms of leadership, you
Yeah.
know, they are, many of these are achievers. They have great confidence in what they have achieved, in what they are doing. They are trying to build lives. A lot of people's lives and livelihood depend on them. And many a times, you talked about the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
Why is it that so confident leaders or some great leaders are afraid to, admit mistake that they have failed, or they have not done these things as correctly as it could have been? And in the
Hmm.
worst case scenario, maximum will happen is that they will lose their job. Why is it that people forget about what they are, what exactly they have been all through
Hmm.
their lives,
Yeah.
and they are ready to, forego everything and just continue to speak lies, not fully correct, even if they know that it is it would not impact them in any way? Why is it that you continue to build lies when you can build a great life around the truth, around which you have so much of confidence on yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a big problem with leadership with traditional thinking of the boss is always right and you can't show that you're human, that you make mistakes. And people today are demanding more transparency in the workplace. That's one of the reasons why companies bleed talent. Somebody will go there and a lot of times we take a job because we need a paycheck, but culture fit and having healthy professional relationships in the workplace is a key factor in why people stay or leave. So when there's toxic behavior in the workplace, you will lose talent. I think that a lot of people they wear that professional mask, I'm the boss, and they don't want anybody to know that they're human and make mistakes because they're afraid. They don't want to look weak. And they're really missing the point of it's when you make a mistake and you can share what you learned from that mistake with the team that you lead, it creates a deeper relationship of trust and communication, and then everybody can learn from the mistake of this is how I missed it, this is what I learned, this is what I would suggest you do if you face this situation. Failing is a great way to learn. Even though it's uncomfortable, we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right, right, Sharon. You talked about self-worth. If I
Mhm.
do a wrong thing, when I look at myself in the mirror, I will feel bad. Even without the mirror, I will feel bad. How do those people who have been achievers have not lived true to themselves? What do you think? How do they see their self-worth as? Or is it that they get trained by, through all this process of not feeling anything? How does that work?
Yeah.
It means, where is that conscience
Yeah.
that came up with you?
Yeah, well, it's really important that when we make a mistake and we're disappointed, we don't let that bleed into our self-worth. Like your worth and value as a human being. Everybody listening to this show, you have intrinsicate, I can't say the word, value. You are a human being. I'm faith-based. I believe every human being was made in the image of God. You have just tremendous value. You're here on the planet for a purpose and a reason. So making a mistake just means that you're human. It's not tied to your value and what you bring to the world. So it's very important that when you look yourself in the mirror, that you can be honest in a healthy way and say, okay, I made a mistake. You can journal about it. You can say, what did I learn? What worked with this? What didn't work with this? It's just helps you develop. The personal development is extraordinarily important because personal development bleeds into your professionalism. Now, people that have done a lot of professional development, they have a lot of letters behind their name. That does not necessarily bleed back into personal development. So, case in point is that person that's the high achiever, multiple degrees, they have terrible relationships. They can't communicate with other people. They're drinking when they go home from work because, their heart's been broken and they're doing different things to comfort themselves. They have went down this spiral of thinking that somehow they don't have the same value, and it affects the relationships in such a way that that person keeps cocooning and isolating themselves, when what they really need is support from other people so they can work through, and they need to do the personal development. Personal development will serve everybody, whether you're a stay-home mom, or you are in the C-suite, or you're an entrepreneur. It will never leave you. It goes with you everywhere you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is much to learn about confidence, about self-worth, and also about leadership, Sharon. And
Yeah.
you got this Confidence Academy. So tell us about that. Tell us about your Call to Confidence podcast, and also about the book, The Girl in the Garage: 3 Steps to Letting Go of the Past. A lot of times people get so stuck up in the past that they
Hmm.
forget about the future. They are not even able to look at the present. Tell us
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, let's start off by saying your past does not define your present or your future. So, the book that I wrote, it's actually my story of overcoming a lot of abuse, and it is my faith journey also, and how I started standing in the truth of who I am as a human that has value, and that I was not what people had done to me or said about me. And from that book really came the idea of the 3 steps that I use to heal and to move forward. I thought, well, this should be, in a book, and then it became a class. So in the Confidence Academy, it is the framework to becoming really healthy as an individual. And then I offer other pieces in there so that you can develop as a leader. So you can learn how to think differently. One of the things I like to say is, I'll teach you how to think for yourself, not against yourself. Because most people that are struggling with self worth, their thoughts are against themselves. It's a lot of self shaming and self blaming. Yeah.
Absolutely. So those people who want to learn more from you, and also those who would like to, be coached by you, get you to speak at their events, what is the best way for them to do so?
Well, if you go to sharonhughes.net, you'll see the contact page. You can message me right there, and you can find there's a free resource on the homepage, the 4 steps to feeling more confident. You can grab that, and that will give you a start so that you can start working on your confidence and believing the truth about yourself.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.